I'm Jeff Pospisil, the conference treasurer for the Dakotas Conference of the United Methodist Church. And in this video, I'm going to go over the 2022 clergy compensation process. And if you're watching this, I'm betting you're part of the SPRC or PPRC. So for the church, that's the Staff Pastor Relations Committee or the Pastor Parish Relations Committee. And you have the duty and the honor of setting the pastor's compensation package for the next year. So hopefully this will help you. There is one very big change from previous years, and I'll go over that in this video as well. On September 1st, we went ahead and put out the clergy compensation packets by mail. So you should be receiving a fairly thick letter via snail mail to the SPRC chair or PPRC chair. And at the same time, we sent the same information also to the senior pastors via email. So watch for that. They may have already forwarded that on to you, but you'll also have a paper copy as well, I guess. So in this package, you're going to see a letter from Bob Rudabush, who's the Southwest District Superintendent, as well as myself. And this is going to walk through what are the responsibilities of the SPRC or PPRC. And it also lays out kind of a timeline so you can understand the rhythm of this committee, how it normally runs. This could be helpful for all the people on the committee to just understand the expectations. The next one is the clergy compensation worksheet, which I think is very important for this season where you're setting the clergy compensation packet. And I'll go over this more in detail later. And then there is also the clergy compensation instructions. And this mainly has to deal with understanding the different sections. So because there's things that are specific to United Methodist clergy in there, that hopefully this will help understand what that all means. Then there is a letter, it's on salmon, and it's from Diane Owen, who runs our Lilly grant, and it's on pastoral compensation considerations. So it should be a helpful tool, and especially deciding the base salary, things to think about when you're doing that. So hopefully you find that helpful. And she also put out this new resource. This is brand new. It's the clergy time away and time off guidelines and considerations. Um, all of us have been through a very busy last 18 months, especially with the pandemic and everything else that's going on in the world. So just things to think about so that way your pastor can function at their best. So that's what's in the packet. Here is a sample clergy compensation worksheet for us to look at, and the top part is the directions for how you actually set the compensation package. So the SPRC or PPRC makes a recommendation to the administrative council. Make sure you clue in the finance committee. The administrative council then approves something that goes to charge conference, and then they bring a paper form to charge conference to be approved. Then after everything's approved, here's the link or the web address to submit it. Or you can go to our website, dakotasumc.org, resources and forms. And I'm sorry this is small, but here near the top is the 2022 worksheet. There's also the 2021 up there because we're still using it. So don't use that one, use the 2022 one. And you can also use that little filter there to just bring the clergy compensation ones that you actually need. And then after that's done, we will turn around in December after open enrollment and send you a finalized clergy compensation form with all the salary withholdings in it as well. And your clergy compensation worksheet should be pre-filled. Hopefully everything's in it's correct. But if there is something that needs to be changed, if you have your paper copy, go ahead and cross it out and write in whatever's correct. So if I did make a mistake, go ahead and correct that. So let's just say for this fictitious church, Tower City, Buffalo, Pastor Josh Allen, that we're going to change the breakdown to 70%. I could use my text tool, which is under comments in Adobe, and I could just go ahead and type that in. And then this also works too if you want to also fill in the rest of it there. Makes it a nice clean copy. There is a blank PDF form under resources and forms for the clergy compensation worksheet. So you could also use that, and that'll give you a clean one as well. For the pastor's salary, there's this minimum salary, 45,809. That's for a full-time pastor that's a full elder, so the status is FE. If they're FL or PE, it could be that smaller amount. I also wanted to show you this. This is churchsalary.com. This might not be as helpful for, well, it'll help somewhat with pastors, but also with the rest of your staff. This is a free resource through Christianity Today, and it could give you a good idea of what other churches of your size are paying their staff. So that's a good resource. Diane points it out in her letter. This designated housing exclusion, that's something important for pastors to set, whether they're in a parsonage or not. It's actually doesn't affect the church. It's not a cost to the church. It's just a tax thing. And then the salary reductions, those are going to be set on November 3rd through the 18th. The cash housing allowance, so that is a cost to the church. So the church does get to set that. So it's not uncommon that if a pastor doesn't have a parsonage, they may have a cash housing allowance and then also an additional amount in as a designated housing exclusion. So that's not uncommon. So, but this is a cost to the church, unlike the housing exclusion. So, and then we'll go ahead and go to the pension direct bill. This is kind of a um, complicated formula. I know we always show it on the bottom here. I got to tell you, I almost never go through the manual calculation. I follow this thread here, so I'm just going to go to it and show you. And again, I probably should make this bigger, but go to finance and finance forms, and then at the bottom here, it's that pension direct bill calculator. And this is, so when I get calls up saying, hey, I just want to verify my pension direct bill calculation, that's what I do. So I encourage you to do the same. The Health Flex direct bill, this is going to be different than normal. And I'm going to talk about that pretty soon, but I normally used to have that pre-filled. Now I don't. And then the rest of it, whatever you want for ARP, fill that in there. And then the other expenses paid by parish, usually that's utilities or something like that, or maybe, I don't know, annual conference expenses. So if you do fill something in there, you can add a description in there. That's always helpful for us in the office to know why that's in there. There were two major changes to Health Flex, which is our health insurance program. The first major change is that full-time United Methodist pastors will be allowed to opt out of health insurance. So that's a big change. They have to meet specific criteria in order to do it. But before that, if you're full-time, you're required to be enrolled in our plan. The second big change is that 3/4 time pastors will be able to opt in or enroll into our health insurance plan. So again, big change because before that, it was up to the pastor and maybe the church to figure out the health benefits. So the reason for this change is that we have more and more 3/4 time pastors serving our churches, and it can be a challenge to recruit 3/4 time pastors. Um, there's a lot of challenges to recruiting pastors, period, but for 3/4 time pastors, sometimes not having that health benefits can be a deal breaker. And this should make it easier for us to recruit 3/4 time pastors to serve our churches. Now, this does affect the billing. And the biggest change is before this, if your pastor wasn't on health insurance, if they weren't on Health Flex, you didn't get billed. So now here's a change. If your pastor opts out, you're going to be billed a reduced amount. And the reason for that is to enable this flexibility. So your church might not benefit this year, but you should benefit from the flexibility in years to come. So this is kind of a connectional thing. And hopefully you see it that way, that it is a benefit to everybody this way. So let's just go over the amounts. For a full-time pastor enrolled in HealthFlex, the amount for next year is going down just a slight amount, so that stays the same. For a full-time pastor that opts out, the church will be billed half that amount. Also, for a 3/4 time pastor that enrolls, your church will be billed half that amount. Also, if you are served by a full-time retiree, it's half that amount. And then the other one is if you have a 3/4 time pastor that opts out, so they don't enroll, you'll billed a quarter of the amount. And again, this amount helps ensure the flexibility of it. So your 3/4 time in one that opts in, that's helping going towards their coverage. But all those other ones where they're not on the health insurance, that's just helping the whole system. So the good news here is that the Board of Pension is providing a grant. They are going to cover 2/3 of the cost for 2022. And then in 2023, they're going to cover 1/3 of the cost. And then it'll be completely phased in by 2024. And so then it'll be entirely the church's responsibility then. So that's a big change. And the big thing to do is to discuss it with your pastor. If you're served by a United Methodist full-time or three-quarter time pastor, what are their plans in terms of health insurance? Because that'll affect that billing. And then the last one is just a reminder that these need to be submitted by December 1st. I encourage you to submit them online, but you can mail in a paper one to our office as well. We just like that by December 1st. It makes just everything easier for us to process all that information to get those accurate clergy comp forms out to you in mid-December. All right, that is it. If you have any questions, be free to call us or email us at finance@dakotasumc.org, or your district superintendent is also a great resource. All right, God bless you in this process.